We don't have to be that conservative about how we defend our rights.
So you touched on it a little bit, but what was the big talk a little bit about the catalyst or the aha moment when you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what actually made you start CGF? Like what did that look like? What was that conversation and meeting?
So I think it was really two big things that were happening. There was a kind of core group of folks on calguns.net. And, for people who aren't in California, we all go there so we don't get abused by AR-15 guys going, why you live in California? Anyway, and it was very clear that we had built a bit of a brain trust. And then getting the off-list lowers that had been seized back from the Milpitas lowers incident was really, that kind of crystallizing moment. And it was happening at the same time that we were building what became the assault weapons guide, the, one pager that ended up being everybody, including law enforcement, used to
Yeah.
decide whether your gun was legal or not. And when it was that clear, it was like, wait, we have cash, we have talent. We should make it so that tax deductible donations are part of this. We should accelerate the coming deluge of litigation because, we're looking at DC versus Heller and expecting to win. And so from that perspective, all those kind of three things meant it was time. And at the time, a lot of the gun rights organizations, especially in California, just weren't aggressive. They did not necessarily know how to use federal courts. They didn't know the kind of, again, these tools that you can use to make government bend to your will. And I mean, the good news is sooner or later, when you explain that to gun owners, it starts to resonate because like part of the reason we own guns is to make sure that the government stays in its box. And wait, what if we tighten that box? And in fact, we can. So I think that was the big transition and the change to really do that. And, out of CGF and our battles and wins, I mean, we kept off-list lowers and bullet buttons legal for more than a decade, which certainly they did not want to have happen. But it was a hard problem for the anti-gunners. It was like, do we want to make more AR-15s legal in California and admit all this is true, or do we just want to try to ignore it? And then, Leland Yee went on KCBS and tried to go out on a interesting jihad at the same time he was dealing automatic weapons to the Philippines. So,
Yeah.
it was a fun time. But I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is that it was clear that there was a change and we needed new blood to drive that. Now, what's happened is, we've built new institutions across the U.S. We've modernized those institutions. Folks like the CRPA now do an excellent job in federal court in a way that they had never done before. And so, I think that was a huge piece of the emphasis. It was, hey, look, let's bring some of these techniques and skills up to and including like, better propaganda. I mean, one of the board members of CGF is Josh Berger, and he's kind of our Alinsky. We've pulled off some crazy stuff that really was the exact right kind of politics and events. We once had a meeting of anti-gun lawyers, very afraid that we were going to protest them, and so like they ended up with like 50 cops, and we sent one person and recorded it, and it was hilarious. So it's that kind of set of techniques that people just hadn't really thought about using to protect gun rights.